In the story of the littlest owl, they lived inside a willow tree. So the first thing we're going to do is create the willow tree as it would look at night. We need to draw a trunk and some branches, and we're going to do that with a pencil first. I need to map out where I want my tree to be, how wide I want it to be. I don't want the trunk of my tree to be this skinny because then it will probably break in that big storm we read about. I don't want my trunk to be right in the center of my paper. I want to put it to the side a little bit so I'll have space to draw different things in my picture instead of just a tree trunk. So I'm going to start with 2 lines just coming up my paper. And you don't have to draw all at once. If you need to move your paper around, adjust your pencil. Idea is we're not going to see the ground or the top of the tree. We're zoomed in on part of the tree. So it will go straight off the paper on both sides. Take a break if you have to. Lift your pencil up and adjust. Move your paper if you have to. Now I have 2 pencil lines. That's going to be how thick I want my tree. It's not taking up the whole space, but it's also not a tiny twig. I need at least 2 branches coming off my tree. I want a branch that's a little thicker on this side, so I'm going to draw a line coming out. And since these are thick branches that maybe my owl might be sitting on, I don't want them to only have 1 line. I want them to have 2 lines and have some space in between. Now I don't need this part of the line anymore. You could even do a smaller branch coming off of the big branch if you want to get really fancy. For this one, I made the lines closer together so the branch looks like it's getting thinner and thinner as it gets farther away from my trunk. When your outline is finished, you can switch to color sticks. Remember that color sticks break easily when they fall on hard floors. Because of the material, if they drop on a hard surface, they're more likely to break into pieces, which makes it a little harder to color, and they don't last as long when they're smaller. If it does break, you can still use them, but like I said, it gets harder and harder until they're so tiny, they really can't hold them in our hands anymore. Now, I need some different versions of brown. Should I take my color sticks out and put them all over the table? No. When you are working with a certain color set and you want to pick them out, put them in the lid. That way, the box is still keeping the color sticks safe in the middle of the table. And I don't have any risks of something falling down on the floor. Okay, so I have a dark brown, medium brown, light brown, kind of a peachy color, and white. Those are the colors you're going to need for your tree. I also need to figure out where I want my moon to go. I think since there's not a lot of space down up here in the higher part of the sky, since this whole space behind the tree is the sky, I can put my moon anywhere behind my tree. I think I'm going to put my moon lower in the sky. If you feel more comfortable doing it with a pencil first to make your circle, that's fine. Remember though, take your time, turn your paper, don't draw it all at once. And it doesn't have to be a perfect circle. Now the first thing I'm going to do so I know where my light source is trace where my moon is going to go. Now you can take this time to color the moon in too if you would like, and you want to color it in white. I'm going to save that for later. Now I need to find out everywhere on the tree that's closer to my moon. And right now the closest spot on the tree to the moon is this side of the tree. So I'm going to make just a white line on the lightest part of the tree. This is right where the moonlight will be hitting it. And I have that little branch. Now, I shouldn't trace the other side of the branch because that side is farther away, which means there's probably a shadow there. And that shadow might be casting a little bit on this part of the branch. So I'm going to skip the corner here, and then I think the white will probably start there again. Same thing up here. I'm going to skip the corner a little bit and bring it up. That is the lightest part of my tree. That is right where the moonlight's hitting. For now, I'm going to put my white to the side, and I can mix it in later. Now I'm going to kind of switch to the darkest parts of my tree. Now the darkest parts of my tree will probably be dark brown, and they're going to be the spaces that are farthest away from the moon. So this side of my tree will get the dark brown, and the areas that are up above, these branches I could also trace with the dark brown, but since they're lower and that's where my light source is, it's in the lower part, I might save that one. I may also need some black to blend in with the brown to make it a little bit darker later, so I'm going to put the black in this side too. Now I'm going to start by coloring part of the shadow of my tree in, going back and forth and kind of moving the brown to fill in part of the tree trunk. Now I have a few friends who always ask if they can put a hole inside their tree trunk where the owls would live. You can do that if you want, but you don't have to. Just part of the tree is fine. If you do a hole, make sure to map out where it is before you start coloring so you know where to color around. And you probably want to leave that hole darker or black. I'm starting lightly so you can still see some black paper underneath. I'm doing that on purpose. I'm not pushing too hard because I'm going to mix this brown with some black. This is my shadow, and it should be the darkest part of the tree. I'm flipping my paper upside down so I can reach the top of my tree more easily. You notice I've come almost halfway over when I was coloring my trunk in. I just didn't push too hard. And I switch over to the medium brown now and press a little bit harder. You can see that it's getting brighter as I get closer to the side where the moon is. Now on the dark side of the tree, I'm making this brown the lighter part. I don't want to put white on the side because again, this is the darker side. It shouldn't have white as the lightest color. I'm making the medium brown the lightest. I'm going to go back with darker brown now and kind of mix and push harder right in the center there. You can see as I'm mixing back and forth, I'm trying to get different versions of brown. Okay, so I've gone from black mixed with brown to medium brown. Now I'm going to go to a lighter brown on the lighter part of my tree. And every time I add a new color, I don't make a line where it starts and where it stops. I mix it back into the last color. This makes my tree look like it is just hitting light and dark instead of just being a tree that has different stripes of color on it. I want it to look like one whole tree that's just turning a lighter color slowly because a light source is hitting the trunk. At this point, I'm pushing very hard with my color sticks, and I'm having to give my hands some break. I'm leaving just a little bit at the very end, and I'm doing some light strokes. I want to mix this with the next color. And if I push too hard, I won't have any space for the next color. So if I push lightly, I'll have space to add a color on top of this brown. I still need to do this branch. I can't forget about that branch. The next one is this kind of peach color that is almost white. It's so light. And I only want to put it right at the spots that are really, really close to the moon. I'm skipping where the branch is because again, our branch is actually going to cast a bit of a shadow. In fact, probably should darken that a little bit again. It's a little too light. Alright, now I'm going to do my branch. You can start on the lightest part down here or the darkest part up here. I think I'm going to start with the lightest just because I'm not sure how dark I'm going to get in a small little branch like this. So I'm bringing my light peach color around. Yeah, I can already see I'm not going to have space for all of the browns, which is okay. I'll probably do a tiny bit of the darker brown up here. Not much, and I don't need any black. This is the lighter side of the tree. When you're finished with your tree trunk, if we still have some time, you can take one of those whites and color in your moon. Now the way I'm coloring my moon in is in little C's, almost like curves. I'm coloring around in a circle. Don't forget to write your name on the back of your paper as well.